morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you. My name is Isha Francis, and I welcome you all to our second Sunday of this year's Living Sufism. For a moment, I believe we are all in gallery view, and I ask you to remain there for a moment and take a look at who's around you in this big room we are all in. There are multiple pages you have to scroll through to see us all. So take a quick look. This is a very big room, a room, it feels to me like, full of hope and heart. So welcome. Now I'd like to ask you all to change into speaker view. This is where you'll remain except when specifically asked to change. And the view control typically is in the right-hand corner, so you should be able to reach up there and bring yourself into speaker view if you're not at the moment. So on our first Sunday, we explored right here and right now, connecting with the entirety of our centered, embodied personal presence. And with that grounding, we were offered ways to bring that presence to moments when we felt at odds with our situation, when tensions or anxiety challenged our balance. Today, we're considering what we call the mistaken separation. I'm not going to say more about that right now, but there is more to come, including at 2 points, entering small groups. A good deal of the material presented thus far, including on that first Sunday and on our website, on the various web pages that have been created there, and what will come today, includes thoughts about engagement, about action. This question, which seems to arise so much more now than perhaps it has years past, what are we to do? Even the title of this series itself, Reaching Out, Reaching In. Giving, receiving, accepting, rejecting, coming, going. So here we sit now, comfortably, I hope. Well, not too comfortably. When I'm too comfortable, when I'm content with what is happening, I tend to sit back a little bit. I slouch in my comfortable chair. I sit back comfortable in my cozy point of view, as if momentarily I really do know what is going on. I am certain. So a few brief thoughts as we begin this second Sunday in our Living Sufism journey. Clearly, even the notion of presenter and participant indicates separation. And the simple sharing of information across this divide of you there and me here is not necessarily creative nor communal. Engagement in this process, though, engagement in this sharing is the deepening of the act of participation. What does that engagement, what does that action look like? What does it feel like as we are sitting together here in this very big room? Today, right now, right here, you have the opportunity, both metaphorically and in reality, to not sit back too comfortably in your chair. Rather to sit up, offering your creative attention. We're given the opportunity, this opportunity for the next 75 minutes or so, to be as present as we can, to listen deeply to what is offered. And later on, when we are invited to join those small groups, to be available to one another, to give and receive, to share something of ourselves more deeply, generously. When that time comes, enter your group gently, perhaps silently. There will be a question to consider amongst yourselves in the small groups. Enjoy that exploration together, and welcome. Bashira?
Well, welcome, everyone. I volunteered to play with this idea of the mistaken separation with you, not knowing what an opening experience it would turn out to be for me. I hope it will be the same for you. In these times of COVID, separation is socially mandated, for heaven's sake. We can't escape it if we try. Aside from feeling isolated by COVID, though, maybe we're having feelings of rejection. We're feeling different from everyone else. We might also be acutely aware of the way the divided world is separating us, whether politically, religiously, or otherwise. On a cultural scale, we may be mourning our separation from the natural world, from the stories and wisdom of those who passed before us, our ancestors. And then again, separation can be entirely internal as well. Feelings of being torn, part of us wanting one thing and part of us wanting another. Of course, there are a million different kinds of separation, and we could be feeling one or multiple varieties at any given moment. So I'm going to ask you right now to sift through all the ways separation might be affecting you and identify the one that is troubling you the most right now. I'll give you a few seconds to think about that and jot it down. You'll hear a quiet gong going when the time is up. So the question is, how is separation troubling you right now? The process that we're going to use in this section is self-inquiry questions. Once I've set the stage, so to speak, I'll present you with a series of questions. You'll have just a little over a minute to think about the question and jot down some notes. So not enough time to write full sentences and organize them into a paragraph, but enough time to locate a response inside yourself and just jot it down so you can track your path through this exercise. Again, you'll hear a quiet gong to let you know time is up. Inasmuch as there are answers to these questions, they'll often be found through somatic discovery. So by that, I mean, how does my body feel in response to that question? And just to clarify, emotions like frustrated are not somatic. Somatic would be how your body is reacting to frustration, such as quick, shallow breaths, heart speeding up, etc. Generally speaking, we know when we're experiencing separation because our bodies tell us something there is triggering us to pay attention. So look there first for your response. Now, the last question in this series will be the one you take into the breakout room. There will be two 15-minute breakout rooms during our program today. They will consist of 3 or possibly 2 people, and they'll be the same people both times. During this time, reflect on the question and see where it leads you as a group. Hopefully, you'll generate more and more profound questions as you proceed. Most of all, we hope you'll dig deep and enjoy the experience. Okay, I think that's enough setup. So let's just get started with our first self-inquiry question. Here we go. What does the separation that is troubling you feel like? What does the separation that is troubling you feel like? What is it that you think you should be feeling instead? What is it that you think you should be feeling instead?
Bashira, we can't hear you.
Thank you. What part of your identity is being challenged by this separation? What part of your identity is being challenged by this separation? What part of you is not your identity? What part of you is not your identity? So we've now arrived at the last question, after which you'll be leaving for your breakout rooms. After I've read the question to you, you should jot it down and take it with you into the breakout room. Watch your screen for a button or link to click on to get there. We're going to try something different and ask you to enter in silence and to resist the urge to introduce yourselves. After two 15-minute breakout rooms together, by the end of this program, you will have a better sense of who you all are than any introductions could give you. Let there be a few breaths before the first person feels moved to speak. You'll want to be in gallery view and of course unmuted. It's been a great joy to facilitate you through this set of questions. When you emerge from your breakout room, you'll be in capable hands of Trace. Here is the last question. What would it feel like to exist without separation? What would it feel like to exist without separation? So I think we're going in breakout rooms now.
So we'll take a moment to all gather back together. Let's all return to gallery view and make sure you're muted again.
I think you mean speaker view.
Oh, yes, speaker view. I can't tell the difference. Who's what? Thanks, Bashira. So I'm gonna assume we're all here together in speaker view. Make sure again that you as individuals are muted. I'm Trace, and I've been finding it helpful to play with separation as a kind of riddle. Consider two figures. One is me, one is everything not me, including you. Between the two, a separation, a gap. Is it a problem? A lack of connection? As we've just explored, it can often feel that way. But there's at least one other way these two figures can relate. Deeper. Pretty simple, maybe too simple. But what if it actually is that simple? In a recent talk, our friend Kieran observed, nothing separates us but the idea of separation. Nothing separates us but the idea of separation. In other words, what if the mistake isn't separation itself, but how I misunderstand it? For example, what if separation's not actually something we are, how we're built, but something we do? And just to push that idea a little further, what if it's not something we're doing, but something that's doing us, and for a good reason? So what would support this idea, different idea? Well, for us humans anyway, separateness is indispensable, inherent, that without which we would not be humans at all. I, as a person, am here before you because of at least one differentiation, me and you. We're doing it right now. Furthermore, it's brilliantly instrumental. Separateness is how we feel divided, yes, but also different enough from a tree, say, for there to be a tree, from a cup, for there to be a cup, from a stranger, for there to be a stranger. In short, separateness makes others. And it's only when others show up that a world, cups and trees and strangers and so much more, shows up. So maybe not a problem at all, unless that's my idea. Not a bug, as they say in the design world, but a feature. Maybe our genius for separateness, for realizing difference, is both indispensable and instrumental to the realization of creation itself. I was a hidden treasure, says Allah, and I longed to be known. How to picture this idea. See these guys again? Wad up 100 billion of these, and you get 100 trillion points of possible connection. In other words, a human brain. Numberless folds and wrinkles and loops support numberless different nerve endings, separated by numberless infinitesimal gaps. Are those gaps flaws? No, they're indispensable and instrumental betweens that make for numberless possible leaps of discovery and connection. In other words, those separations, plus the current of electrical leaps that's always running through them and between them, are how we ultimately, see and taste and feel and hear and imagine and dream and name and know and realize a world, this otherwise hidden treasure, a world of you and me and cups and trees and babies and love and beauty and conflict and divisiveness. As I say, we're doing it right now. Just for a second, close your eyes. And now open them. See what happens? So one more leap. Consider an estimated 20 quintillion living organisms, not even including fungi and bacteria and plants that make up the world, our planet. All different, all separate, all wadded up together as an earth in ways useful and confusing, sometimes dangerous seeming, often dear. Here we are, all positioned, it appears, for potential leaps of connection, of realizing the hidden treasure. For us humans, these gaps that can sometimes feel painful or frightening are also where the opportunity of freedom and creativity and choice are possible, where out of all the trillions upon trillions of possible leaps of connection, we can, and because it's what we do, we must choose. Which begs the question, choose what? So we're going to go back into breakout rooms. And again, you'll click in, you'll switch into gallery view, you'll unmute, and then spend a moment just quietly together. And after a minute or so, we'll consider this question together. Where in your life do you feel a separation that might offer a creative opportunity? Remember, when speaking, speak with your from your whole body, whatever comes up for you in response, including fear, uncertainty, physical sensations. And when you listen, try listening from your whole body as well. Again, we'll have 15 minutes and there'll be a little message that alerts us near closing. So the question again, where in your life do you feel a separation that might offer a creative opportunity? We'll see you on the other side.
Hello, friends. Hello, friends. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
This is Gabriel. Thank you, Trace and Bashira, for those wonderful examinations of separateness and connection and the gap with potential. Let us contemplate on all that has come by. Please make sure your screen is on speaker setting and your sound is on mute, especially while we go into silence later on. Sit comfortably with a good posture. Take a deep breath or two. Close your eyes or watch the words on the screen. Reach out, reach in. Go deep into your heart. Jalaluddin Rumi, the great Sufi of 800 years ago, the most read poet in the English language, says, the heart has been given to its own ears to hear things the mind does not understand. The heart has been given its own ears to hear things the mind does not understand. Hazrat Inayat Khan, the founder of Universal Sufism over 100 years ago, said, all the various faces and endless forms of human beings belong to one spirit and are the manifestations of that one spirit. Call it what you will, spirit, the ground of being, God, the one being, pure awareness, etc. We are all united in it. All the various faces and endless forms of human beings belong to one spirit and are the manifestations of that one spirit. The great Buddhist teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, who passed on only last month, said, we are here to awaken from the illusion of our separateness. We are here to awaken from the illusion of our separateness. My motto is unity in diversity. Pir Elias Amidon, the spiritual leader of the Sufi way on the open path, the one place where there is no separation, where there is perfect communion, is now. The one place where there is no separation, where there is perfect communion, is now. Heraclitus, the Greek philosopher of some 2,500 years ago, invisible connection is stronger than visible. Invisible connection is stronger than visible. Let us meditate on the visible separation and invisible connection. All is well, but we still have something to do. The paradox of both at the same time, at different levels of our being. We will let the words go now. Open your eyes. Take a deep breath or two. Make sure your sound is muted. Let us gaze at each other from our depth into our depth, you and I, in silence for a few minutes.
Thank you, Gabriel. Let's come back into our bodies as if we
Thank
could
you.
leave.
Thank you, dear friends, for being with us for those few moments. And peace and blessings to you. Puran.
Thank you. So I'm Puran, and before we conclude this session and go back to our so-called real lives, I thought I might invite a reflection on the simple question, why are we here? Why have we come together today? Each of us, no doubt, has a personal reason. But from the collective, my view is that we are here in the service of love in a divided world. This is, in my view, the central question, because it is in love, in a divided world, where the work happens. No, certainly we can progress on the meditation cushion, in the prayer room, in the gatherings. But at the end of the day, the work, as far as Sufis are concerned, is happening at the point of contact between each of us and the world in all of its senses. This love in a divided world is an important perspective because indeed, whether we think about the global reality of right and left, haves and have-nots, climate warriors and climate deniers, vaxxers and anti-vaxxers, rich and poor, the world we live in globally is indeed divided. But the division goes further because each of us, no doubt, experiences our own internal divisiveness. You know, one day we can be patient and kind, and the next day we're cranky and don't have time for anyone. One moment we can be full of the wonder of faith, knowing with certainty that there is something greater than us living through us. And the next moment we look around and it's all darkness. And even at the core of our being born into time and space means that we have incarnated into a world of day and night, good and bad, joy and sorrow, winter and summer. And this is why I believe Pir Elias has encouraged us all these years to work from a non-dual perspective, because we are not night and day, good and bad. We are the whole. And through a non-dual perspective, if we can call it that, we might appreciate that there is a singleness of reality within us, within each of us. Explicitly and implicitly, Elias often hints at the nature of that singularity. And it is love. It is love where the work is happening, where the contact points between ourselves and the worlds either yield a beneficial effect or not. So being in service in a divided world and considering that this is of true import, we might be asking the question, well, we've just gone through all these experiences together. Where does this take us? Where do we go from here? What do I do? Well, I come back to the title, Reaching Out, Reaching In, not as two opposite things, but as a singular experience. And if we need to be guided in terms of reaching out, it might be helpful to remember that every time we reach out to another, to our communities, to the environment, reach out to the unknown, every time we reach out, we are generating a reality. If I reach out with compassion and love, understanding and tolerance, that's the reality I am generating. If I reach out with anger and suspicion and judgment, that is the reality I'm generating. And please be clear, these realities we create moment after moment have the tendency to propagate themselves. So even with our continuing to uphold them, these realities, whether they be beneficial to the world around us or not, will continue to perpetuate themselves more likely than not. In terms of reaching in, maybe it's helpful to remember that, to think about what that might mean. Yes, it might mean meditation, introspection, a deeper dive through inquiry as we have experienced today, a deeper dive into the nature of our being. But it can also be something simple. It can be the simple realization that reaching in is about being present, about being here, about being real in the moment, sincerely, full on, here I am. There's nothing of me anywhere else, it's all here. We might call this being available. I like this idea of availability as a hallmark of reaching in, because it really means that I'm here, available to the moment. See, if I go out into the world as a climate warrior or as a social justice activist, I'm in a role, I have a job, I'm not available. I'm doing this thing, I'm not available to other things. And I'm not for a moment suggesting that activism is not appropriate or helpful. Each of us has to find our own real way to, as Isha put it, engage. To be available, however, means to be fully present without any agenda or any, this is what should be happening here, this is what should be happening now. And maybe for convenience, we can call that attentive availability. So simply, as we go back into our worlds to be in the service of love in a divided world, please take a moment before you, once the screen goes blank and before you turn and step away, please take a moment to identify a couple of things in your life, in your personal relationships, in your relationship to your body, to your home, to your community. Please take a moment to identify a couple of places where, one, you might reach out from that point of view of what kind of reality do I want to generate here? What would be the most beautiful, loving, effective thing, world that I could create through this, through these words, through this gesture? And then on the other hand, think about where in your life, in your personal life, you might remember to stand in attentive availability so that when the beloved steps through and says, here, how about this? You're ready, we're ready to dance. Thank you. Bless you.